Just gonna point this out, my bun looks amazing, but you can't see it. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I thought it was about time, my channel being sex positive and LGBTQ+, I made a video about asexuality because it's something people experience, and just because I don't personally experience it doesn't necessarily mean that it shouldn't be spoken about, which is why I am making this video. I also have a series on my channel called Let's Talk About, which I stopped doing a few months ago. I don't actually know why. These videos do take a lot of time and effort and research to put together, and I do have a whole playlist of all of them, which will be linked in the iBar and in the description box below. In this video, I will be discussing the main debates when it comes to asexuality, what it is, if asexuality is real, the types of asexuality, if it belongs on the LGBTQ+ spectrum, and where you can find some asexuality rep. You all need that rep. I want to be inclusive on my channel, and I want to include people who might not feel the same ways as me to kind of reach a broader audience and to make sure those people feel like they're not marginalised. It's arguable that I should just let asexual people talk about asexuality because they know their stuff. In sex positivity, you also need to acknowledge that the people out there who don't want sex and people who don't desire it as much as you, and I feel like in sex positivity it's as important to feel like people's sexual activity is really positive, but also people's not sexual activity and like platonic love, and if they actually want sex or not. Henceforth why I'm making this video. I think I just became William Shakespeare. If I do get anything wrong, please be patient with me, don't belittle me, because again, I'm not an expert. I may be using terminology that I'm not 100% familiar with. I want you to comment, don't get me wrong, if I've done something a little bit inaccurate. Please don't belittle me, I'm still learning. This is something that I think everyone can get their head around. It's a pretty simple concept that asexuality is a spectrum. Some people will feel more strongly of their distaste of sex or like their disinterest in sex, and others will kind of fit in the grey scale, which I'll talk about in a second. Sex will come up in the conversation, and I think if you have an asexual friend who is out and who is comfortable, it's all personal and subjective, and again, asexuality is a spectrum and they might fall anywhere in between, not wanting to talk about it at all and being fine with it, because some asexual people do like dirty jokes and general discussion about it, you know. Sexual health is always something really nice to like educate yourself on. It might just come out in conversation, but it's all about what your friend prefers, and I think rather than guessing about it, have that conversation, because you don't want to accidentally guess and upset your friend. Take care of your friends. I can't stress enough, especially with this video. Let's define some things when it comes to asexuality. The term asexual means someone who doesn't experience sexual attraction.
Asexuality is a spectrum.
I can't stress that enough. Grey ace is considered a grey area between sexuality and asexual. This label is for people who experience only sexual attraction under certain circumstances, such a low intensity that it's kind of not there, or you can probably ignore it, they don't really want to talk about it. Grey ace covers the wide range of the asexual spectrum, including the term demisexual. This term was coined in 2008 by the Asexual Visibility Education Network, and it means people who experience secondary sexual attraction for when a emotional bond has already been formed. This label is not to be mistaken with the sexual attraction to Demi Lovato, Demetria sexual. However, these are just labels and they're incredibly subjective, and what works for someone might not work for somebody else. We don't invalidate people's labels. If someone feels comfortable with something, you know, don't invalidate them. Which brings me very nicely to my next point. Asexuality is 100% real. Period. If someone feels comfortable in a label, please leave them alone, because chances are they've been battling with themselves for ages. They've probably been beating themselves up thinking that they aren't normal, or perhaps they just discovered that it isn't conventional. Finding confidence in a label is very important to some people, and I feel like it was very important for me on a personal level too. Please don't take this label from them just because it isn't conventional to you. You don't experience it. It doesn't mean that it isn't less real than any other sexuality or identity. Something I find extremely interesting about the asexual community is the split attraction model. In a shortened down version, the split attraction model is basically where sexual attraction and romantic attraction are split into two separate things. For example, you might not feel sexual attraction at all, but you might feel romantic attraction for women or men or for everybody, all genders, all identities. And therefore, because your sexual identity and your romantic attractions are two separate things, they should be two separate concepts. There is a whole debate with the split attraction model, and there's a whole for and against argument whether it's useful or not useful. We don't have time to go into it, but Amelia Ace does an excellent job in explaining the do's and don'ts. I will leave them in the description box below. People are so stuck with the idea that sex is equal to romantic love. And in personal experience, someone giving you that sexual attention doesn't necessarily mean they want a romantic relationship with you. People kind of question asexuality because of this, because we're so traditionally stuck in the ways of sex is equal to love and sex is needed in a romantic relationship, when it definitely isn't. That is why, to me, the split attraction model is so fucking important for breaking down a stigma with identities such as aro ace and every other identity on the asexual spectrum. It's really good for breaking down stigma and making people kind of understand. I definitely understood a little bit more after I heard about this model. The asexual community comes with a lot of debates, such as the split attraction model, and also if they belong on the LGBTQ+ spectrum or in the community. And again, Amelia Ace has a fantastic video where she discusses these points. I believe that one of the main points for against is the fact that it's argued that asexual people do not have a sexuality, they don't experience sexual feelings, so they shouldn't be in a community that is pride of their sexuality and they take pride in being sexual, which would make sense. But we can't start discriminating people using our own pride. People are allowed to feel things that you don't. We should be supporting them and not marginalising them further, because we know what it feels like to be them. We know what it feels like to be shunned to the margins of society because you don't fit in. We shouldn't be using our pride to beat others down. That's basically what I'm saying. With all these new identities coming about, there's always the question of how the media will react. Will they take it on board, or will they completely ignore the changes? Because at first, we had no lesbian or gay representation, and then it kind of came on the scene, and now we're stuck in this kind of boat about, okay, where there's other identities apart from gay, straight, and bi. I haven't seen all of BoJack Horseman, and it is actually really in my watch list, but Emmy here on YouTube said that there's a really good character in it that is asexual, and the story's kind of developing. You might not want to watch it as a solo thing because there might be spoilers, but I have heard that that has some really good representation for asexuality. And I don't think it's wrong to say, with sites like Netflix and YouTube and the rise of new digital media and the developments, that we're getting more of a representation for people like asexuals and people who identify on the LGBTQ+ spectrum, because we're able to make our own representations and people are becoming more woke. People are becoming more open-minded and aware of these identities and aware of these people that exist. Look at One Day at a Time, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Although I have not seen both of these shows, the internet loves them and I trust the internet's judgment. Also, Brooklyn Nine-Nine has been just renewed due to audiences, and I think that is such a good point with this. Although we are still awaiting shows like Big Mouth to have asexual characters and then to have like a big storyline like they do sexual characters. Again, Amelia Ace has a whole video on possible, you know, asexuality characters and reps. So here's what I found courtesy of asexuality.org. The TV show Sirens reportedly has a character called Voodoo who is asexual, and it also deals with other identities, etc. in a very good way, I've heard. The TV show Aces, although discontinued, had a very good representation for asexuality, as you can probably tell. The anime One Piece has a character called Luffy in it that is possibly asexual, but I don't think it's universal, I don't think it's canon. I think the writers have said that they are asexual, but it's not actually in the stars. The webcomic Supernormal Step has an aro ace main character, along with Sharp Zero, a character in the video game Borderlands. In the novel Let's Talk About Love by Claire Can, Let's talk about, and reportedly some characters in Harry Potter. We will see about that, Joanne. Those are some of the positive representations of asexuality that I managed to find on this forum. Feel free to go out and seek these positive representations in these shows and come back to this video and see if it's right. I will pin the ones that I think are interesting. I would go out and seek positive representation of asexuality on my own, but A, I wouldn't know where to start, and B, I'm not asexual, so how am I going to decide whether something is positive representation of asexuality or isn't? That would be like me going into a wine tasting thing and seeing if wine is good. Well, I don't know shit about wine apart from the fact that it's fruity, sometimes tastes like feet, and makes me want to pee like a pregnant person every 5 minutes. I really want the comment section of this video to be a discussion more than an argument or anything like that. If you're going to say something negative, please don't comment at all. For now though, there was my little video on Let's Talk About Asexuality, a little crash course and introduction into asexuality. I'm not going to turn my whole channel into a homage to fucking asexual culture. Let's leave it to the professionals, the people who actually identify this way. Along with that, in the description box below will be links to some sexuality just in general, for if you feel unsafe or if you feel unsure about your sexuality. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like this video, found it educational, please share it with your friends. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I make videos every Monday for weekly vlogs and Wednesdays for sit down videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week for all of my videos. 1, 4, 3. Bye! Mwah.